Okay, so you got LPR or silent acid reflux. I had LPR. I suffered with it for a while. How did the symptoms that I had first manifest? For me, it started, as it does for a lot of people, with a traumatic event. And before I get started on this, I should point out, if you're watching this, then you have LPR, presumably. And if you have LPR, I know a few things about you. I know that, first of all, you have suffered, or you are suffering, right? You feel hopeless. And I'm willing to bet that you have a history of anxiety, depression, maybe even straight up psychological illness. Like, this is one thing that's very important to know about LPR, because it has to do with how you heal from it, is that nobody well-adjusted, confident, successful, not a care in the world ever gets it. Okay? It's only those of us, we're all maniacs, right? We're all hypersensitive, sensitive people, which is not a good or a bad thing. It's probably a good thing in some respects, but we tend to be very sensitive, so that's important to know. And as I said, often the symptoms of LPR start with a traumatic event. For me, it started right when my father, who was living in Portugal at the time, I live in New Mexico in the United States, he had a stroke and went into a coma. And I spent a few weeks of extreme stress. During that time, I developed this horrendous cough, a horrible, wheezing, nasty cough, that I had to take cough suppressants, Mucinex, things like that to deal with. And that worked. It allowed me to at least sleep. But every night if I couldn't lay on my back, and I don't know, I haven't talked to anyone who had this exact symptom, but if I lay on my back at night, I would get this whistling, wheezing feeling. It was horrible. So I learned to sleep on my side and my front. That helped a lot. But this cough was the first symptom. Now this cough, after suffering for long enough that I knew it wasn't just a regular cough, I went to a doctor, got tested, and they diagnosed me with asthma, which was weird because I've never smoked. I worked out my whole life. I've never done anything that you would think would cause any kind of respiratory illness. Nevertheless, I was diagnosed with asthma. They gave me an inhaler, and I thought, okay, this is the problem. I have asthma. But the inhaler didn't really seem to make much of a difference. I was also, as I mentioned earlier with the anxiety thing, I was taking Xanax for anxiety. That seemed to help more than anything else. Okay, which is also important to know. I felt like very often the wheezing would get better if I took a Xanax, which is crazy. Over time, my symptoms changed though, they developed. I started getting this lump in my throat, which has a technical name, I think it's globus or globulus, something disgusting sounding. And another interesting common symptom is this yo-yoing effect of symptoms. I don't know if you have this, but a lot of people do, where the symptoms alternate back and forth between two or more symptoms. So for me, I had this throat issue, lump in my throat, basically felt like how you feel like when you're trying not to cry. And then I got this tightness in my diaphragm, like right under my ribs here. Just felt like pressure, like constant pressure, and a lot of burping. And then the symptoms developed even further. I started having digestive issues, like stomach would be bothering me like crazy. And that was that's basically all the symptoms I ever had. Throat discomfort, lump in my throat, cough, discomfort in my diaphragm, digestive issues, excessive burping. I'll leave this video at just a list of all my symptoms for editing reasons, because I'm going to try and keep these videos under 5 minutes. So on the next video, I'll talk about what I did, all of the things I did, if I can fit them into the video, to heal. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, but we'll discuss.